Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Comic Shop Talk Live, brought to you by Black Hat Comics in Rockin' Milpitas, your one-stop shop for all things superhero. Shop online at black-cat-comics.com. We're keeping you connected to the comic book community. I'm Mark.
I'm Francie.
And we've got a great show for you today. Going to be talking all things Marvel Comics. It's the first week of our annual publisher sale, and many of you are taking advantage of it right now. As we speak, go to black-cat-comics.com, click on shop, and tons and tons of Marvel stuff, 25% off. So talking everything Marvel today, old stuff, new stuff.
Not everything.
Oh, when it's me, it could be a little bit of everything. But of course, we always like to start the show with a little comic shop news. Comic shop news. And even at that, it's a little bit of Marvel news. February is Black History Month, as everybody knows. And Marvel is doing themed variants.
Cool. Blade on the cover
every week, featuring some of their awesome Black characters, like Blade. This is your Black History Month variant cover to Avengers number 42. I will, of course, be talking a little more Avengers a little later, but I want to throw this one out there. Want to mention that there will be different ones every week. Be on the lookout for them. Representation is important.
Yes.
And Marvel's got some really, really great African-American characters. This one, Blade, obviously. The Falcon is one of my favorite characters. Storm is one of my favorite characters. Anywho, Black Panther, of course, tops the list. My man Luke Cage, you got all my Luke Cages back there. Anywho, that's my bit for comic shop news this week.
We need a lot more Blade in our lives.
We do.
That guy's cool.
He is cool. And those movies come from an era when there weren't great Marvel, when there weren't great superhero movies. And it sort of raised the bar for superhero movies. So that was cool. And
good stuff.
We'll be hearing a lot more about Blade in the ensuing months and years, I'm sure.
It's a great character.
You have anything for comic shop news?
I don't think so.
No real big announcements this week. So let's move right on to it. As we said at the top, every February we do publisher sales. And this week is the big Marvel sale. So we're going to be talking lots of Marvel stuff. Our favorite Marvel book, our favorite current Marvel book, and some different Marvel things that you all might be interested in, especially at 25% off.
Yeah, so we've been doing this, I don't know, probably not consecutively for the last 18 years, but more years than not. And what we do is every weekend we put a specific publisher stuff on sale just to kind of introduce new readers to different, flavors of things that they might not check out on a regular basis. So this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, all things in the Marvel collection on our online store are an automatic 25% off. So once you get to the checkout, you'll automatically get the 25% off. And it's still free shipping on all orders, $35 or over, or you can select curbside pickup. So we've got t-shirts and trades and sweaters and caps and backpacks and all kinds of fun stuff in that Marvel collection. So it's not just comics and trades. We've got some good GSBs, so gold, silver, bronze stuff in there too, right?
Yeah. Got some cool old classics. Got some awesome action figures like this Hulk Wolverine 2-pack right there. Tons and tons of cool stuff.
We got like the X-Men #1 signed by Jim Lee up there too.
Yep. The 1990 X-Men #1 signed by Jim Lee. Infinity Gauntlet. Got a couple other gems here to show you. Fun stuff.
25% off. That's a good chunk of change.
So if there's something
that
might have got by you, it's a good time to grab that. Check out something new, fun, and exciting. All kinds of fun stuff.
Yes.
So why don't you start with just a Marvel something that you like and recommend?
Well, so as most of you guys know, if you've been watching this at all, I'm more of a DC gal. So I kind of sprinkle around in Marvel here and there. But some of the stuff that I've really loved over the years are anything with the Brian Michael Bendis, Alex Maleev team up. So like Alias, Jessica Jones was really great. His run on Spider-Woman, which was like a mini series, I think like 6 to 9 issues. I mean, it's a gut punch. He really gets at the crux of the characters, like what their main, weaknesses are, what their main trials and tribulations are. It's very kind of Greek mythos with these characters, how Bendis weaves a tale and really helps you feel the weight of the world that these characters are carrying on their shoulders. The trials that they go through, the villains, the personal conflicts that arise. It's always well told stories, and the art by Alex Maleev is just perfection. My favorite stuff by these guys, let's see, this is volume 3, is the Daredevil run that they did. Pardon me.
Question.
So the Daredevil run, we've got all 3 of the Ultimate Collection volumes on our online store, 25% off this weekend. And if you are a fan of the Netflix Daredevil, you will love this stuff. I think the show's loosely based on this run. And again, it gets you into the depths of who Matt Murdock really is. Like, what makes him tick, what makes him cry, what makes him go out, and fight crime when he's broken and confused and blind. So it's a great, if you, of course, everyone loves the Frank Miller run, but if you're a fan of the Netflix show, if you're a fan of Daredevil, you absolutely need to check out at least the first volume and see if you like it or not. And then there's 2 other volumes that accompany it as well. So that's my favorite. Any and all things, Brian Michael Bendis, Alex Maleev. On the other side of that, anything Jason Aaron, that kid's on fire. He's like Tom Taylor for DC. Like anything he touches is just like magical. I loved his run, I think it was 2016 or 17, of Unworthy Thor. Speaking of like getting at the core of the characters and having you really feel their angst and feel what they're going through. So this is the run where Thor had lost his hammer. He wasn't worthy of it. And so what happens to him without his hammer as he's trying to make amends? And, there's fights with him teaming up with Beta Ray Bill. And it's a great, well-told story. So if you're like Thor, pick up the Unworthy Thor collection by Jason Aaron, and then just look up anything Jason Aaron and you will not be disappointed.
It's really true. I'll tag on to both of those things. First, with the Bendis Maleev, what I love about their team up is that they complement each other so well.
Yeah.
Everything you said is true about the storytelling, the kind of stories that go on.
It's gritty.
And that's the word. And Maleev is a great artist for Bendis because Bendis is so emotional and so raw. And Maleev does a great job of capturing facial expression and body language and environment and all those things. And so I don't know, just
this is pretty classic. It's dark, it's gritty, it's not real colorful. But it's more in the depths, in the shadows, and he uses color very sporadically to really denote emotion.
Like that.
Like this.
Excellent
great
stuff. Daredevil has always been my favorite, one of my many favorite Marvel books, and that run is one of the best. And the other thing to tack onto the Jason Aaron thing, he was on Thor for a long time.
Yeah.
And did stories in the distant future and every kind of comic trope that you can imagine. He found a way to tell those stories with Thor. And you said if you're a Thor fan, check that out. I would say even if you're not a Thor fan, particularly with the Unworthy Thor part,
so good.
Because he strips Thor of all the things that made him iconic, that make him the character you know. So if you don't know anything about Thor, or if you're a longtime fan, it's even better because he shows you, like you say, the core of the character without the hammer and without the Loki and whatever all.
It's that fundamental. Who is Thor without Mjolnir? I'm never going to be
meow. She says that always cracks me up. And so that's two great things. The one thing I'm going to start with because you said all things Marvel, and this one goes across.
Yeah.
So before I start, let me say, as I always like to say, this is an interactive show. So feel free to throw your questions, comments, queries, concerns. We are more than happy to address whatever it is.
Favorite Marvel stuff.
All those things. We
Favorite Marvel movies.
Want to know what you're reading,
TV shows,
what you're looking forward to reading.
What is your favorite?
What's your Marvel stuff going on right now? Yeah. And let's face it, we could just talk WandaVision for the rest of the show. Speaking of talking for the rest of the show, this is Amazing Spider-Man number 58. This is the latest issue of Amazing Spider-Man. This is going to encapsulate everything. I'm a huge Marvel guy. Everybody knows I'm a huge Marvel guy. I'm a disciple of Stan. All of my first comics were Marvel, etc. Amazing Spider-Man right now is symbolic of everything that has always made comics great, periodical comics great, what makes periodicals work, what has kept comics going for 80 years. I know that's a huge statement, but it's 200% true, and I'll try and very quickly explain why. That is a cover that you want to know what the heck's going on. Since in the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, the current age, comics has always been about you looking at the cover and being like, what? I want to know what happens in that book. Here's Spidey fighting a bunch of crazy ninjas. You don't need any more than that. You want to pull the money out of your pocket and watch what happens when Spidey fights crazy ninjas. So, great cover sells comics. The other thing that is great about comics and has always kept comics going is you getting to that last page and being like, holy cow, no way, I got to have the next issue of that book. And Amazing Spider-Man has done that. Again, since Action Comics #1, any book you want to talk about, the secret, the key to it is that, yeah, this book's awesome. It's so awesome that you want to read the next one because you're gambling that the next one is just as awesome as the one in your hand. And Amazing Spider-Man is doing that just like it did in the 60s and in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and it's doing it right now, and it's awesome. Lastly, again, this is the brand new issue. So Spider-Man it's about Peter Parker. It stinks to be Peter Parker. You do not want to be Peter Parker. No matter how cool his powers are or how many times he gets to hang out with the Avengers, you would not trade your life to be Peter Parker. And that's what's always made the book fun to read, and that's what's going on right now. Like I say, I can't say enough about this title. I talk about it all the time because it's what makes Spider-Man great. It's what has made Marvel great. It's what makes comics great, is that the one in your hand is tons of fun to read, so much fun that you want to read the next one.
Isn't there some Spider-Man movie news that you remind me of?
Yeah, Strange Academy.
Strange Academy, Daniel.
Spider-Man movie news. There's a lot of Spider-Man movie rumor. But not a lot of. And
Ben Percy on Wolverine needs recognition. He's a talented writer. Yes, excellent call, Bruce. Thank you for mentioning that.
Daniel is talking about Strange Academy, and that's another one. A little bit different from what I say about Amazing Spider-Man, but sort of the new generation of that. You saw the cover of Strange Academy. Cover had great art and had characters you wanted to know more about. You read the first issue, and they delivered on that. You saw these cool characters. You're like, what's up with these guys? You read the first issue. You're like, Kid Dormammu, I want to read this for the rest of my life. And then each issue makes you want to read the next one after that. A great comic makes you buy the next one. You don't read a great comic and then say, oh, I'll wait for the trade. You don't read you can read a good comic and say, this is really cool. And the trade comes out, I want to read the rest of it. But when you read a great comic,
can't wait.
You're not going to wait a year to read the rest of the book. You got to see the next issue now.
Right now.
And like I say, Strange Academy does that. I think Amazing Spider-Man is doing that. I think a lot of Marvel books are doing that now.
But back to the Spider-Man movie, isn't there something where they're bringing in Sam Raimi's stuff with the current stuff?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening?
So again, this is all like internet, whatever. But there's some truth to it's all going to be Into the Spider-Verse, right?
Sweet.
Into the Spider-Verse totally took the world by surprise. Mm-hmm. And comics is usually pretty smart about jumping on things like that. So when they saw how everybody reacted to that, they're like, let's work this into the live action stuff,
Right.
especially with WandaVision feeding into Doctor Strange, and they've totally said that Doctor Strange 2 is just going to blow everything up.
I can't wait.
Is going multiverse manic. And so basically, yeah, we're going to see all the MCU incarnations, all the Sony all the movie incarnations of Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire is on set. The guy I don't know because I didn't see those. The one in between Toby and our new guy. So there's all 3 Spider-Man are going to be in those movies, and presumably the Mary Janes and the whatever. And I think that's a lot of fun. Smart. I love the Tobey Maguire stuff. Obviously, like everybody, Spider-Man 3 was not my favorite, but Spider-Man 2 is
funny. Spider-Man 2 was funny. There were moments where it was really funny.
But Spider-Man 2, I thought, captured everything that is at the essence of Spider-Man, and so I'm stoked to see Tobey coming into these new movies.
Good times. What else you got?
What else do I have? Okay. A couple of things, recent modern comics that I think people let them get by you, and I'm going to encourage you, especially at 25% off, to pick up a copy and give these the second look. One is Marvel Legacy. This is your shiny foily version, so it might not lenticular. No, I don't think it's
not lenticular.
It's not lenticular, but like, it's
it makes a noise.
Got that Beastie Boys sound going. This book is a lot of fun. It shows you the very, very beginning of the Marvel Universe, and I don't want to say too much about it. As I say, it was slightly hyped when it came out, but people kind of blew it off. But there's a lot going on in this book, and more things that are in this book are now starting to show up across the Marvel Universe, notably, again, in this week's Avengers. And so it's a really, really fun book, really, really cool book, good stories, good art. That was good. Let's go back there.
That's good.
Here's some cool action shot. Boy, everybody, like I say, the origins of the Marvel Universe, Odin and the first Phoenix and the first Iron Fist and Khonshu and et cetera, et cetera. It's a really, really fun book. Just a one shot, totally self-contained.
I love those.
And so again, at 25% off, it's a really, really fun read. The other one, are we fading over there?
Go ahead. Keep going.
The other one I wanted to mention was Marvel Comics number 1000, another book that was mildly hyped, and came out. Maybe it was the price point or something that you passed it up. But if you passed on this one, I'd really, really recommend, especially again at 25% off. This was what? $10, so it's like $7.50 right now. Tons of fun. What makes this book awesome? It's the untold history of the Marvel Universe. There's a character in here that began in the Golden Age, and they show you their story all the way through up until the current time, and that's really cool. What makes it especially cool is, I don't remember the number now, but like every 2 pages is a different creative team. Every 2 or 4 pages is a different creative team. So there's dozens and dozens. Here's a big old list of all kinds of names of folks that worked on this book. All kinds of the top talent in comics. And you wouldn't think that tons and tons of creative teams could put together a consistent read, but they do, and they did, and it's really fun. Here's a nice little look at the juxtaposition of artists and such.
Sorry, got my hand in the way here.
So like I say, just a couple of really great current reads that you don't have to, commit anything. You don't have to know much about anything. It's just fun. So again, at 25% off, a couple of really, really fun, really unique reading experiences that you can pick up on the cheap that you might have missed, and they're really cool. So I thought I'd give them a plug here for Marvel Week. Again, sort of the beginning of the Marvel Universe, and this thing, tons and tons of creative teams, characters you didn't know, all the characters you do know and love. Really, really fun. I've seen 100,000 comics. I've read 1 million comics. I own 1 million comics. I can honestly say there's really nothing else quite like this. I've never seen any book where this many creative teams work on one story. It's not an anthology. It's one story done by tons and tons of different creators. It's kind of an accomplishment, and I think it deserves a little more recognition. So that's my pitch. Pick up Marvel Legacy, pick up Marvel Comics 1000. Both of them are well worth it and deserve more credit than they got.
Julie, thank you so much for your support. She pre-ordered the Black Cat Chronicles and can't wait for it to come out. We can't either. We just got the final inks on almost all the pages. So next week we should be getting all of the beginning of the final art and pages and lettering. So hoping to get to the printer by the end of this month so that we can get it in your hot little hands sometime in March. So thank you for your support. We're very excited for it too.
Yes, really appreciate your support, and we're excited, and we're certain that you're going to love it. They are. The work in that book is just exquisite.
This guy Nate, who's the artist, is going to get picked up by somebody. Like if Dark Horse or Boom Studios or DC or Marvel don't pick up this guy, they are just crazy.
Any publisher who might be watching, look out for it. Pick
incredible.
up our Black Cat Chronicles, and you're going to want to offer this guy a job.
I think it's his website. I think it's nateolsonart.com. Don't quote me. You can get it. You can find his art through our website, black-cat-publishing.com, for his other work besides the Black Cat Chronicles. He's amazing.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Thank you.
Do you have something else, Marvel?
I do not.
Well, I can go on and on and on and on.
I figured.
Okay, so we talked a bit about Amazing Spider-Man is my current comic, is my all-time ever Marvel comic, and I always like to say I'm not the
Avengers.
I mean, that's what I was going to caveat. It's not my favorite thing, but Amazing Spider-Man is the iconic Marvel comic, and so you pick up a current one, pick up a classic one, pick up an old trade paperback. You can't go wrong with Spider-Man. So talk about Spidey is my new this week book you got to get. These guys are my current comics you should check out. To talk a little bit about trade paperbacks, Marvel does a thing called the Epic Collection, if you can read that, or maybe that's backwards.
They're heavy.
They're these big old chunky, there's
Good
like 20
books.
issues at a time in these things. I'm going to use the X-Men as my example, but whatever your favorite Marvel thing is, or whatever that Marvel thing is that you're interested in, has these Epic collections, and I can't recommend them enough for you, for a gift, for whatever reason that comic books might be coming into your life. These Epic collections are really great. So, for example, this is Volume 1. They don't come out in order. They put them out kind of haphazardly. I don't know why, but just to say, you can't buy them 1, 2, 3, 4, but all the Volume 1s are out. And of course, Volume 1's best place to start. So you can pick up the classic, the original Volume 1s of all your favorite Marvel stuff. Again, for you as a gift, especially for the young readers. These early ones are great for the young readers. You get the origin stories. You get the origins of all the original villains. You get all the original classic stuff, and that's tons of fun to read.
That's all the movies are based on.
It's what all the movies are based on.
Coming out, right? This is the Children of the Atom. Isn't there a movie coming out with that?
That's probably what the next thing is, but I'm not 100%.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are these color or black and white?
Color. Which is sort of the point. You might remember the old Marvel Masterworks.
Right, that's what I was asking.
Essentials, that's what they were. The Marvel Essentials
Those
were big like this, but they were black and white and they were newsprint. The idea that you could buy tons of material on the cheap. But this is, full color. They give you the covers in here, which is really cool.
Oh, that's nice.
Because a lot of trade paperbacks don't give you the covers.
Sure.
And again, even though they don't necessarily print them in order, the reason they do that is so that they can jump around and give you all the Jim Lee stuff from the 1990s, the Jim Lee Wiles Portacio. This is volume 19. They didn't make you wait for them to put out every single volume of the X-Men ever. They, for the most part, first and foremost, they give you the ones you want. And then once they hook you, then they give you the ones that fill in. So these epics are really great because, again, there's like 20 issues at a time. So you can get the cool classic 1960s stuff. You can get the 1990s stuff that, you know, some of folks that aren't 100 like me, this is the stuff when you were a kid, the stuff you came into comics with. They have more modern ones. Again, they got them for everything under the sun, Amazing Spider-Man and X-Men, but they do like Moon Knight and Morbius and all the B and C characters too. So whatever your Marvel thing is, either that you love or that you want to be interested in loving, it's just a really great way to fill in your collection. And I should also say, obviously, a lot of these books are super expensive to buy in their original form. Affordable is exactly where I was going. A lot of the issues in these things haven't been collected before. You don't see them in every single trade paperback. And again, obviously, buying X-Men #1 would cost you a few $1,000s, but this trade's only $40. Some of those early Jim Lee, Wells Portacio X-Men cost you a couple bucks, but in the trade paperback, you know, it's easy to do. And like I say, they have them for all the Marvel stuff. I just wanted to use X-Men as an example, but tons and tons of fun, especially again at 25% off. You really can't beat it. So
good time.
Epic Collections, tons of fun.
Yes.
All right.
More Marvel, or should we go into new this week?
I can go one more Marvel thing if you'll tolerate me.
And then what are your favorite Marvel books that you're reading?
And then and yes, those essentials were fun. And what I used to do with the essentials is color them. I'd buy them to have that material, and then I would be the Jack Kirby's colorist for a day. How cool is that? The last thing I wanted to throw out, sort of like our Causey Classics show. Again, we talked about current books, talked about modern books, talked about graphic novels. Now let's talk a little bit what we call here GSBs, stands for gold, silver, bronze. These are just good old classic comics. So there's this show called WandaVision, and it stars this character. And I can't say it. I was going to mention something from last night's episode that's not a spoiler, but I'm not going to say it anyway. Suffice to say, there she is, right there on the cover.
And she's your favorite.
Yes, she
Avenger,
is.
Right?
She is my favorite Avenger. I'm a huge Captain America fan. But I'll say real quick, I don't have one to show you. Avengers 171 is one of my first comics. And in Avengers 171, you watch the boy heroes fight Ultron losingly through the entire book. You're watching Cap and Thor and Iron Man and Yellow Jacket, and everybody's fighting Ultron, and Ultron's just destroying them because that's what Ultron does. And I'm a kid, right? I'm like 5 years old. I can barely read this thing. But you're watching this indestructible robot just whoop on these guys. You're like, man, this robot's tough. The last page of the book, the Scarlet Witch shows up. She casts one spell. Ultron splits in half. Radiation goes everywhere. Scarlet Witch wins. You watch these heroes fight this robot for 20 pages and lose. This gal shows up and in one panel destroys the indestructible robot. I've been reading the Avengers ever since. That was, like I say, that was the last page of 171. I've been reading every issue ever since. So if you love WandaVision like I do, then you want to pick up some of these oldies.
We've got some of the trades, but we keep selling out.
Yeah, we do. And in fact, the one that I was talking about is now even out of print. But just to say, and here's this is 103. There's the Avengers fighting a Sentinel, which is very cool. This month's Avengers has them all as Phoenixes.
Oh,
so cool. Way back in the day, here's a little Avengers X-Men sort of crossover. All the way up to today, here's a little bit of an Avengers X-Men crossover. So that's kind of fun. So anyway, got some classics up on the site. If you don't have a lot of classic comics, if you don't know a lot about classic comics, pick one up, check them out. There's a reason why they're fun. You know, yes, you can buy these stuff in trade paperback, but it's neat to see the ads, the original covers. And just to read the story in its own kind of self-contained format is a lot of fun.
And I think you should mention that you have the entire run.
I do. Again, because I read that 171. I loved it. I was reading the Avengers like crazy. Somewhere around 227, George Perez goodness. Best Avengers, second best Avengers artist ever, because you can't put anybody above Kirby. And so it was around 225, I think, when I discovered my first comic book store, and I realized that you could buy back issues, and that concept blew my mind. So in that moment, I decided that I would own every Avengers comic, and at the time, I only had about 200 of them to buy. In the time that I bought those 200, another 300 came out, but that's a whole other conversation.
So how long did it take you to get a whole run of Avengers done?
Let's say that I really started, I focused on it, let's say 1985. And I probably, and you got me that, the last one I needed.
I'm a good wife.
What was that? 5-10 years ago?
Probably.
So at least 25, 30 years. Going to every convention, ordering online, doing everything you can. It's not as easy as it sounds. Real quick, to demystify a couple of things about old comics. Having all the money in the world doesn't help you. You can have all the money in the world. There will be holes in your collection. There will be books you don't find, and that's just how that is. It's not. I'm not rich, so when I say, oh, I have every Avengers comic, it's not the money. It's the time. You have to go to every show. You have to go to every store, because when you get down to number 89 being the last one you need, no one has 89, and you can be like, but I have $100 million. And they're like, well, that's nice. I have number 88 and I have number 90, but I don't have 89. And that's the story of comics. So if you're gonna do it, you got to put in the time. All that being said, it's worth it. When you get that last one and you slide it into the box where it goes after you read it twice, it's super awesome. So and you don't need to fill runs like I do. That's pretty OCD. You can also just, pick up the cool ones, pick up the keys, pick up ones with cool covers like that.
You've got a full run of Cap too.
I do also have a full run of Cap, which is a very similar story. I read Cap 243, the Baron Blood one, and didn't even need to read 244. I just read 243, the first part, and it just changed my life. And so I had to have every issue of Captain America. Nice. And now I do. And that's an interesting point, though, because I mentioned earlier that Amazing Spider-Man is such a thing. My beef, slightly, the reason I'm not saying Captain America is that book is because it doesn't come out all the time. Spider-Man's way more regular. So if you're like, why is he talking about Spider-Man and not Captain America? I thought Captain America was his favorite. Because I can't get you into Cap like I can get you into Spider-Man. So, old books, new books, trade paperbacks, tons and tons of fun Marvel stuff. black-cat-comics.com. I could go on and on and on about all things Marvel. I could go on about, obviously, Lee and Kirby. I could go on about the John Byrne era, George Perez. George Perez is the only reason I ever bought a DC comic. Because I knew his name from the Marvel books, and I saw him doing Justice League. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll read this. George Perez. And of course, that made me a huge Superman fan.
Sorry if there's a delay on this side. I'm not sure what's going on, if it's our internet or if it's the battery wearing out or what, but sorry about that.
So that's the Marvel thing. And when we get around to the DC week, that will be more your thing, and I won't talk so much. And I could go on and on, like I say, about all kinds of things. But I'd rather be answering your questions.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Marvel book? Classic book, current book, your favorite Marvel hero? What are you into right now? All things Marvel, lay it on me. As we roll into a more all general
new this week stuff.
What do you got for new this week?
I'm really liking the Future State Wonder Woman book. Joelle Jones, man, she is talented. I think it's a she. I don't know. I think so. So
yes.
we'll just say yes. She also did the Catwoman run for DC, which was really good. I mean, I have to show you this one page of art because it's just so amazing. Oh, look at that. I mean, who doesn't want to read that, right? So the Future State stuff's really good. So it's only 2 issues. So, this is the end of her little arc. We'll see what happens with it going forward, if there's a series that DC's going to pick up from here or not. But it's been great. It's not Wonder Woman. It's a different kind of universe. It's a younger version, but don't let that stop you. It's still a really good story, and it's great art. So I was really enjoying that from part of the Future State universe that DC's offering.
I've enjoyed a lot of the Future State stuff, more than I thought, to be really honest with you.
Grew up a Superman guy, but have recently been drawn to sword and sorcery stuff. So I am digging into Conan, both old and new. Yeah, Conan's great. It's one of your other favorites too.
Why don't you show them, if you can turn the thing, we can show the top row. I got a bunch of old Conans on the top row there.
No, I can't.
Oh, well.
We might lose you guys. The battery's just not cooperating. But it won't fit. It's too short. It's already getting plugged in.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, technical difficulties. If we lose you on Facebook, I'm sorry. We will finish up on YouTube and post it later for you guys to enjoy.
But yes, Conan's awesome right now. And much like Star Wars coming back to Marvel, I was very, very excited to see Conan come back to Marvel. Happy to see them integrate that. Check out Savage Avengers. It's a great mix of Conan and the heroes of the Marvel universe.
Maybe this one's a little bit faster.
Yeah, because that battery cranks.
Okay, let's try.
And like I say, we got some old ones up here. They might not be on the website, but you can book a virtual appointment and check those out.
So
maybe not.
We shall see. Let's see. Sorry for the technical difficulties. It's not charging at all.
Well,
put it back over here.
Okay.
Technical difficulties. It's what makes going live so much fun. Man-Bat, also liking Man-Bat. That was a new DC book this week. I loved Kurt in the Batman animated series. His tortured scientist. I need to find a cure for, I don't remember what it was, cancer or whatever. And his serum just totally turned him into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I also like that his wife is named Francine, because there's a couple of spots within the animated series where he actually calls her Francie. So I'm like, oh, it's like me. I've heard my name said on TV before. Manuel grew up with Marvel Monster.
Yeah, like Werewolf by Night and all that good stuff.
It's fun. Good times.
He's asked about Future State Swamp Thing. You're a Future State Swamp Thing, aren't you?
I liked Future State Swamp Thing. It's not, if you're hardcore with staying with the canon of who the character is, you might be a little thrown off because the art's great, the storytelling's great, but it doesn't have the same feel of the original Swamp Thing character. What do I mean by that? I talked about this before. Swamp Thing is a tragic character because he's unique and he's alone, and he straddles, both planes of remembering somewhat of his earthly human existence and also being responsible for and protector of the green. So part of the great crux of the character is he's alone, and he's by himself. He can never have relationships. He can never, he's like Gonzo. He's just one of a kind. So Future State has him with a bunch of other Swamp Thing, like little pieces of him, youngins. And it's an interesting take of how he is in a family setting. But to me, it's almost like putting a gun in the hand of Batman. It's just a little too off the mark with the original character for me. So it threw me. Having said that, if you're, not a stickler like I am and you haven't read a ton of Swamp Thing, it's a great read. It's a fun book and the art's amazing.
There you go.
Voila.
I like the Man-Bat thing. I'm happy to see them put him in a book, much like you say about him in the animated series. They've never done enough or at least they haven't done enough with Man-Bat since the 1970s. You used to see him a lot when I was a kid, and then they kind of got away from it. And I think he's a really neat character. My guy, I'm on many things because that's how I am.
Who hates Doomsday Clock? Hate's a strong word.
I was cool with it, but I didn't get the end. Anyway, so King in Black, Black Knight is my new this week book of the week for a number of reasons. One, as I've said 50 times already today, I'm a huge Avengers fan. So me and Dane Whitman go way back. He's one of those cool heroes where you're like, he's just a regular guy. How could he hang out with the Avengers? Because having a flying horse and a magic sword really helps. And there's tons of great Black Knight stories. He's one of the few characters, a little like Patsy Walker, who predates the Marvel Universe, which is really fun. You can find Black Knight comics from the 1950s. And that's really cool. Of course, he was a villain in the Masters of Evil, etc. So anyway, just to say, he's a cool character. It's neat to see them busting him out, especially for the King in Black stuff. Why do you care? Because you're reading King in Black because it's all awesome, and also because the art in this book is really great. Try and find a non-spoiler page. Check out some of this business. That's some cool art. Check out, sorry.
That's my head.
Check out some of that. That's some cool art. King in Black's been a lot of fun. Again, I'm not a huge Spider-Man guy, but I read the first one because I like all the Marvel event stuff. And like I say, I like the main book. I always say you don't have to read the main book. You don't have to follow everything. But if there's something that interests you, like Black Knight interests me, so I picked up the book and it sucked me in. I really liked it. So again, just a mini series, kind of non-committal, but if you like cool stories, you like cool art, especially if you were mentioning a little sword and sorcery. This is kind of what Marvel does in that vein, sort of like how they do horror, how they do sword and sorcery. They take a superhero and do sword and sorcery with that. So if you like watching guys fight dragons, this is the book for you. And like I say, the art was really cool.
Yeah, and Bruce, all things Tom King, who's the writer of Mr. Miracle, Adam Strange. He's doing Batman, Catwoman right now. If you like Mr. Miracle, if you like Adam Strange, you should absolutely pick up the Batman Catwoman series too. It's written by him. He's amazing. But yeah, I like all the offshoot characters too. I'd love to see more of Dr. Fate. I'd love to see more of, again, Swamp Thing from the traditional perspective. Hellblazer, this run of Tom King or Tom Taylor, the other Tom, that was out this week. This is the third of the 3-issue miniseries. Amazing story, amazing art. Loved it. And any word on your comic? Yeah, Manuel. So we were just talking about earlier. Our comic is Dr. Fate. Yes. See, our comic will be done in March. We just got some of the final inks this week from the artist, and it looks amazing. We can't wait to see it in color. So hopefully by the end of this month, we'll be able to take it to the printer. And early March, as we have promised, we will start getting those out to you guys that have pre-ordered them. So we're very excited for that too. Thank you.
Getting back to the other, I totally love Martian Manhunter and wish they do more with him. I'd love to see Tom King do a Martian Manhunter book.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but kind of in the same line as the Swamp Thing. He's a character in and of himself, right? He's part of what makes him a tragic character and interesting is he's the last one of his kind. And I have to say, I just didn't get this 12-issue run that was from about a year. It finished what, 6 months ago?
Yeah,
maybe a little bit longer.
well, it's a little like I talk about sometimes. You know, in any given thing in comics, you have two choices. You can do something classic, or you can do something bold, new, and different. And in either case, you can be right or wrong. Sometimes when you go classic, people are just like, oh, I've seen this. It's cool, but I've seen this 100 times. And then and other times, of course, you do something classic, you're like, yeah, this totally fits in with everything I know and love. And then sometimes you can go new, bold, and different, and people be like, wow, that's a really great new addition to the character. And other times, just what you're saying, be like, that kind of missed the mark. It sort of gets too far away from what I understand of the character. But you know, you got to do these things. You gotta try once in a while. So I don't blame them for it, but sometimes it doesn't hit as well as you'd like it to.
And I'm sorry, I'm not distracted. I can't. Our screen's dim, so I can't read the comments. So I'm pulling up my phone so I can read what you guys are saying. Bruce, I think Tom King's great on the dedicated character miniseries, less so on the longer run of Batman. He's great at character and dialogue. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. We're big fans of Tom. Like I say, I'd love to see him do a Martian Manhunter book.
I mean, his issues in Batman leading up to the wedding that didn't happen, spoiler, were phenomenal. Like that one issue with him and Joker and Catwoman. Oh, that was like the best thing ever.
And while we're on that subject, because you mentioned Mr. Miracle, I want to throw it out there in a little bit of comic shop news. We'll talk about a little bit this in a couple of weeks when we do the DC thing. Part of this future state thing that's been so much fun are the backup stories. Yeah. And there's been a lot of talk about the whole point of future state is the idea of legacy characters and who takes over when the person's gone. And the new Mr. Miracle is going to get his own book. There's a Mr. Miracle backup feature in the Superman books, and he's going to get his own miniseries. And that's really cool because Mr. Miracle is such a great character, number one of my longtime favorites. But what people don't really often realize is Mr. Miracle began as a legacy character. In the first issue of Mr. Miracle in the Jack Kirby run, there was a previous magician, Mr. Miracle, same suit and whatever. Scott Free takes that guy's identity. That guy dies, 50, 60-year-old spoiler, and Scott Free takes on his identity, and Oberon is the assistant of that previous magician, and that of course has gotten lost in the storytelling as the years have gone on with the new gods and all that kind of thing. But like I say, in the very beginning, Mr. Miracle starts as a legacy character. And so the idea that there's a new one and that will carry on. Like I say, I'm enjoying the books that they're doing now, and he's an interesting character. And the idea that they'll move forward with that is really cool. Again, nobody loves classic Mr. Miracle more than I do. But you also want to see new stories, exciting stories, things that carry all this into the future, and that's fun.
And one other pitch for Tom King, if you haven't already, and you are a fan of kind of realistic mystery type stuff, check out his Sheriff of Babylon if you haven't already from DC Vertigo, when DC Vertigo was still a thing. So it's basic murder mystery in Iraq, and coming from Tom King's experience of being in the military, serving in Iraq. It's a very well told story, and it's fascinating. The art's great too. So if you haven't picked it up yet, the Sheriff of Babylon is also a great one to add to your list.
DC has tons and tons of great tertiary characters that they don't do enough with. And then we all have our favorites. You mentioned Dr. Fate. Zatanna is a favorite. I guess we've seen Zatanna, but just to say, they have tons and tons of great characters. One of my favorite things about the New 52, and I've talked about this many times, is the range and diversity that they launched with. I'm a little critical of DC because they do so much Batman stuff, and they do that because it works and because it sells. But unfortunately, they also do it because they don't have a lot of success with some of their other characters. And I don't blame them. I blame us the fan base for not supporting cool books when they do things like The Demon or even like Green Arrow. Like Green Arrow is such a great character, and they just the fans aren't really drawn to the book. But like I say, DC has a ton of great characters that we don't see enough that I'd like to see more of.
Yeah,
And
Bruce, that's why he likes Justice League Dark. Detective Chimp, man.
Detective
All
Chimp,
about
come on.
Detective Chimp.
That's right. He's the company's namesake.
He's awesome.
And that's what makes things like Justice League Dark and Justice League Odyssey so much fun.
Good times.
Good stuff. I guess the only thing I've got left is my usual Star Wars rant. So why don't you find something?
So non-DC, non-Marvel, if you wanted to look at something else, Maniac of New York came out this week from Aftershock, issue #1. And it's a really great kind of horror story. Or you can read it here if you can't see it there. It's 2016 New Year's Eve, New York, and there's a maniac on the loose that just goes around with this like custom machete with spikes and just unleashes mayhem in New York. So much so that for months and years they've completely changed their culture, and there's curfews and all kinds of stuff because this guy has been hunting folks of New York. So it's good, it's creepy. It's my kind of horror pick of the week. So if you are fans of horror, pick up Maniac of New York, and I will show you. I'll see if I can find an appropriate non-gory page to show you.
That's non-gory.
That's not. Yeah, the page after that.
I was saying that you turn the page, it's nothing but blood.
So it's almost kind of got this like watercolory feel to it. It's a little bit loose. It's a little less defined art-wise, but it fits the story. You know, the art has to match the story. If you're doing something that's like super gritty, super dark, but it's like a happy, colorful manga art, it just doesn't work. So the art does fit the storyline here, which I really appreciate.
Can't emphasize that enough. Publishers, creators, that's super true. The book has to feel like the story.
Yeah.
And they miss that sometimes. That's just real true. I will use that as a segue to begin to wrap it up. But while I do this, feel free to keep throwing those questions, comments. We want to know what you're reading, your Marvel books, your favorite Marvel stuff, all that kind of thing. But this, the one she's talking about, is an Aftershock title. And I'll begin wrapping up by saying, go to black-cat-comics.com, go to the events page, check the calendar, and see all the different publishers and the weekends that we do. And I strongly encourage everybody to take advantage of this, especially as we get into this. Aftershock, Ablaze, AWA, Scout, Vault, are all publishers that are doing, they're newer publishers that are doing great stuff.
Really solid.
Then you get into the ones that you know about but might not be reading. IDW and Dynamite and Boom Studios, Oni Press, obviously Image Comics and Dark Horse Comics. If you're a Marvel person, if you're a DC person, as most of us are, most people that interact with Black Cat because we're a superhero shop, but every publisher has a book that you would like if you would read, if you knew about it, if you checked it out. So take advantage of these publisher sales to discover a new title, a new character, a new writer, a new artist, a new publisher, something fun, something new, something different. Comics have so much out there that you kind of owe it to yourself to try something new, fun, and exciting. So
I believe these guys will be on sale during the Small Press Week, which is the third weekend of February. So this weekend it's Marvel. Next weekend it's independent publishers. So that's Image, IDW, Dark Horse, and I believe Dynamite. But you can check that on our website. And then the third week will be pretty much everybody else. And then the last weekend in February will be DC Comics.
So take advantage of the Marvel sale, take advantage of the DC sale for all the obvious reasons, but check out the sales on the other weekends as well, because like I say, there's lots of great stuff from the other guys, great stuff that we talk about every single week that doesn't get enough attention that belongs in your stash. So again, today, tomorrow, go to black-cat-comics.com, stock up on all that Marvel stuff because it's tons of fun. Get something classic, something new, something fun and awesome. Get yourself a t-shirt, an action figure, something fun. But over the next couple of weeks, like I say, check out those independent publishers and pick up something something new, something different, something you've never seen before, because that's always fun. And of course, as always, you can find us here every Wednesday with the live comics, with the live video and the new comics. And go to black-cat-comics.com for all the info on everything we do. Sign up for the newsletter, get the newsletter every Wednesday so you can be up to date on all things Black Cat.
That's right.
And that about wraps us up for this week. So from Black Cat Comics and Rock and Milpitas, thanks for watching.
Bye, guys. Thanks.